Welcome to ENG 304, English Semantics. Unit 1, Introducing Semantics. Introduction. Meaning as a concept is difficult to define. One major reason for this is its fluid nature, subject to material and immaterial realizations. It is on this ground that meaning has been treated in terms of reference and sense. Some of the issues relating to this dimension will be discussed below. Objectives. At the end of this unit, students should be able to 1. Define the term semantics vis-a-vis the concept of meaning. 2. Discuss the nature of meaning. Semantics and concept of meaning. Let us start this unit by taking a short historical survey of the word semantics. The term semantics was coined from a Greek word with the meaning to signify. In terms of evolution, the term has traversed many years of usage. In the 17th century, it occurred as the word semantic in the phrase semantic philosophy. In 1893, Embrel coined the French semantic from the Greek version. The word semantics was actually used in 1894 in a paper entitled Reflected Meanings, a point in semantics. Both in 1893 and 1894, it was not used in relation to meaning, but rather to the development of meaning, i.e., historical semantics. It appeared in the title of Brill's book published in 1900. Semantics, Studies in the Science of Meaning, in which semantics was treated as a science of meaning. This direction was sustained in Ogden's and Richards' The Meaning of Meaning, 1923, where the word semantics occurred in the appendix entitled The Problems of Meaning in Primitive Languages, written by Malinowski. Defining meaning. For more than 2,000 years, scholars have debated the question of meaning and have hardly reached a consensus on its most acceptable definition. There have been as many definitions of perspectives on meaning, and there have been schools of thought. One approach to meaning, which has wielded so much influence on semantic scholarship, is a conceptual theory of meaning, which sees meaning as ideas or concepts, which can be transferred from the mind of the speaker to the mind of the hearer by embodying them, as it were, in the forms of one language or another. Lyons, 1981, 136. Other theories such as Platonist, Structuralist, Semiotics, Truth Conditional, and Speech Act theories contend respectively that meaning is found outside a person's mind. It's derivable from the relationships words keep with one another in a language. It's translational. It's accounted for in terms of the prepositions being true or false, and is conceived in terms of the actions performed in speeches. Palmer, 1981, 206 contends. Semantics is not a single well-integrated discipline. It is not a clearly defined level of linguistics, not even comparable to phonology or grammar. Rather, it is a set of studies of the use of language in relation to many different aspects of experience, to linguistics and non-linguistics contexts, to participants in discourse, to their knowledge and experience, to the conditions under which a particular bit of language is appropriate. Palmer's definition and scope of semantics emphasize the multidimensional nature of meaning, which incorporates contextual variables. More on this under Semantics and Pragmatics in Unit 2. Lyons, 1977, 5. Definition, which considers meaning in an intuitive pre-theoretical sense, and which is paraphrased as follows. Complements, Palmer's. Meaning is in society, and what semantics does is to employ the reflective nature of language. A. Ability to explicate how the speaker intends to make meaning from what is uttered and how the hearer perceives of what is heard. Babatunde, 1995, 1. For the purpose of this course, Odebomi's 2006 2 definition of meaning will be adopted. The knowledge or perception of an utterance or expression gained from a synthesis of users, interactions, with the linguistics form engaged in communication, the context in which the linguistic forms appear, the hearer's access to speakers' intentions, and the totality of the experiences of the participants in communication. What this definition implies is that when analyzed the semantic content of a sentence or a word, we are interested in its informative value, facts, ideas, or issues being projected, its social value, the relationship being established between a speaker and a hearer, and its expressive value, the intention and attitude being transmitted by the speaker as enabled by the context in which the item is used. Exercise 1. Comment on the informative, social, and expressive values of the words and sentences in the extract below. Good day, Your Excellency, Mr. President, intoned Professor Okong, executing at the same time a 90-degree bow. No reply, nor any kind of recognition of his presence. His Excellency continued writing on his drafting pad for a full minute more before looking up. Then he spoke abruptly as though to an intruder he wanted to be rid of quickly. Yes, I want you to go over to the reception, Kwagrandu, and receive the delegation waiting there. Well, sit down. Thank you, Your Excellency. I suppose I ought to begin by filling you in on who they are and what they are doing here. Etc. Unless, of course, by some miracle, you have made the discovery yourself after I left. No, sir, we didn't. I am sorry. Very well then. I shall tell you, but before I do, I want to remind you of that little discussion we all had after the Entebbe raid. You remember? You all said then, what a disgrace to Africa. Do you remember? I remember, Your Excellency. Very well. You were all full of indignation, righteous indignation. But do you by any chance remember what I said? I said it could happen here, right here. You did, sir. I remember that very well. You all said, oh no, Your Excellence, it can't happen here. The way he said it, in mimicry of some half-witted idiots with a speech impediment, might have raised a laugh from a bigger audience or at a less grave moment. Yes, Your Excellency, we said so, admitted Professor Okong. We are truly sorry. It wasn't yet very clear to him what point or connection was being made, but what his answer should be was obvious, and he repeated it. Your Excellency, we are indeed sorry. It doesn't matter. You know, I have never really relied on you fellows for information on anything or anybody. You know that. Chinua Achebe, Ati Hills of the Savannah, page 14 to 15. Goals of the study of meaning. According to Morris, 1938-24, meaning can be considered as the relations of signs to the objects to which the signs are applicable, and the relations of signs to interpreters. Babatunde, 1991, page 2 to 3, expands this perspective in respect of the goals of the study of meaning as follows. A. Explicating how words and utterances function to convey meaning, especially as regards the relationship between words, utterances, and the word. B. Explaining the process of understanding words and utterances and the factors involved in this understanding. C. Making available some formats for the precise representations of meanings at the lexical, phrasal, sentential, and discourse level. D. Providing formal definitions of meaning, dependent properties of expressions, and relations between expressions, shedding light on how words and utterances have expressed or have not expressed the intention of the speaker. E. Explicating and characterizing how human beings relate utterances to historical, cultural, social, political, and ideological background experiences, e.g., peculiarities of L2 second language English. The nature of meaning. Three aspects of meaning can be distinguished, namely speaker meaning, hearer meaning, and sign meaning. Cruz, 2000. Speaker meaning refers to the message the speaker intends to convey. Hearer meaning relates to the meaning the hearer infers from the message conveyed by the speaker. Sign meaning refers to the properties of signals selected to best convey the speaker's intended message and to transmit messages. Meaning has been observed to be intractable in nature. This is because it is difficult to account for in concrete terms. It is fluid and potential to generate different impressions as per the perspective of the meaning explicator. Meaning has been observed to be intractable in nature. This is because it is difficult to account for in concrete terms. It is fluid and potential to generate different impressions as per the perspective of the meaning explicator. Each interpreter comes into the interpretation exercise with a different orientation. According to Odebumi 2006, this throws light on the expressive nature of meaning. For example, inputs into the pool of meaning have come from philosophy, psychology, neurology, semiotics, and linguistics. Philosophers seek to know how anything means something and what sort of relation must hold between X and Y for it to be the case that X means Y. Cruz, 2000, page 11. Psychologists relate language to mental states and processes, while neurologists seek to know how the implementation of these states and processes is done at the neuronal level. Semioticians concern themselves with language as a sign system. It features linguistic signification and iconicity. Linguists study native speakers' intuitions in relation to meaning across languages. Each of these orientations goes with particular goals and intentions, which ultimately affect the meaning achieved. There are two dimensions of meaning, descriptive and non-descriptive. The former, a term credited to Lyons, 1977, has been called additional meaning. By Halliday, 1978, it has also been variously described in the semantics literature as referential, logical, or propositional meaning. It determines the truthfulness or falsity of the proposition expressed and constrains the reference and identification intended. Cruz, 2000. Ostension, a meaning indicative method, provides a way by which reference could be identified. Ostensively speaking, meaning is made available through pointing. For example, saying, "Look at those houses," identifies the object house within the environment in which the utterance is made. The meaning of the word house thus becomes the object house seen when the intended reference is correctly identified. Non-descriptive meaning, on the other hand, is subjective, non-conceptual, has restricted validity, and does not express any proposition. Cruise 2000. Examples of this include gosh, oh, etc. The relationship between words and things. The relationship between words and things. The relationship between words and things has constituted a concern to scholars working in meaning-related areas across the ages. In this section, we shall examine briefly the major issues debated between the classical and modern periods. Traditional grammarians refer to words as the basic unit of syntax and semantics. For them, words have form and meaning. Thus, they saw the relationship between words and things as that of naming. They often alluded to the first man's, Adam's, role of giving names to things in the Bible as a basis for their position. Prominent in the traditional grammarians, concept of naming is the question of naturality or conventionality. For the naturalist, there was the need to find the connection between form and meaning, which they tied to the duplication of the denotation. This means that they saw an inherent relationship between words and things. To explain this natural connection, they explored onomatopoeia, which is capable of demonstrating a link by associating sounds with particular animals or things. For example, the bird chirps, dogs bark, etc., which pick out specific animals by the sounds they naturally make. Naturalists also pointed to a link between the source of a name and the name. To them, that the name Adam, for example, came from the Hebrew Hadamsh, meaning creation, suggests its meaning. Beyond the classical meaning, it is possible, though mostly accidental, to find a connection between a name and the manners or ways of the bearer. A good example is the name of a former Lagos State governor, Otedola, meaning conspiracies transforms into honor, which symbolizes its journey to fame, his rise to governorship, being conspiracy landing in a way. Another example is the name of the incumbent Nigerian president, Jonathan Goodluck, whose entire life has ridden on fortune paths. While naturalists saw the names things bear as inherent in their nature, conventionalists saw the names as striking an arbitrary relationship with the things. They were thus preoccupied with 1. What the original word was, and 2. Who coined them. Medieval grammarians maintained that there is an indirect relationship between the form of a word and the things it represents through the concept associated with it, i.e., the word. This triadic relationship between words and things have culminated in the evolution of the theory of signification. Ogden and Richards, 1923, illustrated the relationship with the triangle below. At the top of the triangle, concept, in bracket meaning. At the left side of the triangle, word form. At the right side, reference things. The chart shows that the concept is associated with the word and reference independently, which means no relationship exists between the word and its reference. For example, there is nothing between the letters D, O, G, in bracket dog, and the four-legged domestic carnivorous animal, dog, to point to the animal. That the word came to be associated with the animal was merely by convention, making the relationship arbitrary. As conventionalists would argue, it should be noted, however, that the notion of signification cannot account for meaning in all its ramifications, especially where abstract entities such as love, beauty, and happiness are concerned. Exercise 2. With reference to the passages below, discuss the relationship between words and things. The world is a sea. In many respects and assimilations, it is a sea. As it is subject to storms and tempests, every man in a world feels that, and then it is never the shallower for the calmnesses. The sea is as deep, there is as much water in the sea. In a calm as is in storm, we may be drawn in a calm and flattering fortune, in prosperity as irrecoverable, as in a calm and flattering fortune, in prosperity as irrecoverable as in a wrath sea. In adversity, so the world is a sea. It is a sea and it is bottomless to any line, which we can sound it with, and endless to any discovery that we can make of it. The purposes of the world, the ways of the world, exceed our consideration, but yet we are sure the sea hath a bottom, and sure that it has limits, that it cannot overpass. The power of the greatest in the world, the life of the happiest in the world, cannot exceed these bounds which God hath placed for them. So the world is a sea. John Donne, Sermon, LXS11, 1619. I have often been pleased to hear disputes adjusted between the inhabitants of Japan and other man of London, or to see the subject of the great Mogul entry into a league with one of the Caesar of Muscovy. I am infinitely delighted in mixing with these several ministers of commerce, as they are distinguished by their different works and different languages. Sometimes I am just among a body of Armenians. Sometimes I am lost in a crowd of Jews, and sometimes make one in a group of Dutchmen. I am a Dane, Swede, or Frenchman at different times, or rather fancy myself like the old philosopher, who upon being asked what countryman he was, replied that he was a citizen of the world. Addition, The Spectator, 1711, page 12. It must be a movement then, an actuality of the possible as possible. Aristotle's phrase formed himself within the garbed vast and floated out into the studious silence of the library of St. Genevieve, where he had read, sheltered from the scene of Paris, night by night, by his elbow a delicate Siamese, coined a handbook of strategy, fed and feeding brains about me, under glow lamps, impaled with faintly beaten feelers, and in my mind's darkness a slot of the underworld, reluctant, shy of brightness, shifting at dragon's scarlet folds. Thought is the thought of thoughts, tranquil brightness. The soul is in a manner all there is. The soul is in the forms of forms. Tranquility sudden, vast, candescent form of forms. James Joyce, Ulysses, 1922. Summary. We observe in the foregoing sections that semantics, the study of meaning, has gone through a long evolutionary way. In terms of goals, it explicates how words and utterances function to convey meaning, explain the process of understanding words and utterances, makes available a linguistic representation format, provides a format for assessing meaning, relations, and intentions, and characterizes contextual influences on meaning. We also pointed out that different professionals come into the study of meaning with diverse interests, making the concept of speaker meaning, hearer meaning, and sign meaning a relative engagement. Finally, we discussed two schools of thought connected with the discourse of the relationship between words and things: traditional grammar and medieval grammar. End of study section 1. Thanks for listening.